If you're anything like me, when you're building a settlement, it's very easy to get, as they say, lost in the sauce. Before you know it, 20 hours have passed and you're still only halfway through your settlement build. Well, I've decided that ends today, because as you've probably very smartly deduced from the title, I'm going to be building 2 settlements in 3.5 hours.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Build number 1 will have a time limit of 30 minutes and one main goal, which is to improve the living conditions for the settlers in the location. Build 2 will have a build limit of 3 hours. Again, it will require me to improve the living conditions for the settlers in the location, but this time I'll also have to create my own separate residence. Now, in order to give myself the best chance of success for this build, I had to choose an appropriate size settlement. And after a bit of deliberation, I decided to go with Tenpines Bluff, because it's within the top 5 smallest locations in the entire wasteland. Right, now that's all being explained, let's get started with settlement build number 1. So for anyone unfamiliar with Tenpines Bluff, it's a small settlement just to the east of Sanctuary. It consists of a shed, small farm plot, and old derelict building to the north of the settlement. It's got a small amount of elevation, but overall there's not too much going on with this plot. So my plan for the 30-minute build was to focus on one main settlement build, which would replace the old worn out derelict section. I started off by scrapping the old derelict building, and I did this for 2 main reasons. First one is building within the original construction is difficult to do, and it takes up valuable time, which I just didn't have. Not just that, but even if you do manage to fit your build in the original structure, you still have to put up with 1,000,001 twigs growing through the floor, which personally I don't like the look of. So, after the demolition was complete, I got started on the base, which consisted of a 3x4 block layout using the warehouse floor blocks. I added a small porch section and supported them with warehouse pillars, and so far this had only taken me 3 minutes out of the allotted 30 minutes I had.
Nice.
Once the floors were laid out, I moved on to the walls, which again came from the warehouse section, and topped it off by adding the second layer of flooring. I then moved on to the front porch fencing, which if I'm being honest was a poor use of my time. I also then thought about adding a covered section to the front of the house where the generator for the main settlement could live, but I quickly decided against that idea and moved on to the next floor in the main structure as time was marching on. To create the second floor, I used a bunch of half walls and topped them off with roof pieces, which I think gave the structure a cozy barn vibe, which still provides plenty of space for settlers to walk around in.
Look at all this floor space. We do aerobics in here. So many activities.
Once that was finished, I added a few gun turrets to the front of the building to provide security on the farm, added some temporary lights to the inside, as well as constructing a small side building next to the house so the generator for the settlement could be housed. At this point, I was approaching the 20-minute mark, meaning I only had 10 minutes to furnish the property, so I got to work. I added a bathroom, living room, office, and kitchen to the downstairs, and created a bedroom area in the loft, and after placing one last painting to the attic wall, the time limit had come to an end.
Your time's up.
And that means it's time to show you all the finished result of build number 1. So yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. Sure, it's not perfect, but in the limited time frame I had, I think I achieved everything I set out to do. But the real question is, how much better can I make this settlement with a 3-hour time limit? Well, I guess we'll find that out now, with settlement build number 2. So, build 2 started a lot like the first build. I removed the pre-existing structure and laid out a 4x3 floor pattern, but this time I used the stone blocks from the USO mod I'd recently downloaded, which I think gives the base of the build a really fitting look for this location.
You know, I'm something of an architect myself.
For the first floor, I went with barn walls to give it that worn-out cabin look I was going for. Then I added single mesh flooring pieces to give it a little front porch area, as well as adding some worn-out white picket fence panels to finish it off. Once that was complete, I added the rest of the walls to the first floor and added some double-wide carpeted floor pieces for the second floor. Now the floor was down, it was time to add walls to the second floor. And for this section, I went for a continuation of the barn walls on 3 sides, but changed up the front of the property with some of the large glass warehouse walls to make the structure stand out. I added a small balcony to the front of the property and then got started on the roof, which was made from the barn roof pieces to give the second floor a really nice large open feeling. Although I did section off a couple of the rooms to provide more privacy for the bathroom and bedroom, given that the front of the property is made out of 99% glass. And let's face it, the last thing anybody wants in life is to get taken out while pushing out a fudge dragon. Once I'd completed the roof and sectioned out the rooms upstairs, I got started on the side building that would house the generators for the property, and again I used the stone walls with some warehouse blocks and framed them off with single concrete stair assets. I added some powered conduits to the top of the second floor to make sure power was evenly distributed throughout the entire house, and then put up some temporary lights to help me while it was nighttime. And voila! The skeleton of the main building was prepared and ready for furnishing. But before I could start furnishing the new property, I was going to need to build myself a house. So for my house, I decided to position it on top of the mound opposite the main structure to give the settlement a feel of being filled out on each side. I was an hour and 24 minutes in at this point, so I knew I was going to have to keep my house on the smaller side to allow time for furnishing and decorating the entire settlement. I went with a 2x1 block floor layout. I added a small porch, barn walls, as well as a staircase to a second floor. I then added the rest of the walls to the second floor and finished off the building by adding on a small second floor balcony. And with my house now built, I only had 1 hour and 26 minutes left to furnish the entire settlement. But it was getting late and I needed to go to sleep. So I went to bed and got up the next day ready to blast out the decorating. And decorate I did, as you can see right here, but unfortunately after an hour of working my ass off trying to make this place look as good as possible, the unthinkable happened. Fallout crashed.
Another settlement has sent word that they need our help. I'll mark it on your map.
So yeah, public service announcement to all settlement builders out there. Remember to hit quick save throughout your builds, or you'll risk ending up like me. See this right here? That's the face of a man who's just lost an hour of his life he will never get back. What a dickhead. Anyways, after taking a few minutes to calm down, I jumped back on more determined than ever to finish the settlement, and that's exactly what I did. So, without further ado, here is my full 3-hour settlement build with Tenpines Bluff. Now, just before you click off the video, I just wanted to let you know quickly that I've created an open Discord server for absolutely everybody and anyone who wants to join. I've named it Builders of the Apocalypse, and it's for literally anybody who enjoys settlement-based builds in Fallout. If you want to show off your own photos or videos in there, you can do, or even if you want to just give me ideas for upcoming videos, anything like that would be super welcome. So if you think that's something you'd be interested in, I will leave the link in the description down below this video. Now, just to finish off, I want to say a massive thank you to you guys, anybody that's watched this video or any of the videos I've put up and shown support. I massively appreciate it, and it honestly means the world to me. And with that being said, hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.